Hi, my name is Matt Scott. Welcome to the 2020 Classy Collaborative virtual sessions. Today, I'm really going to focus on how nonprofits can and must optimize the year-end donation experience. My name is Matt Scott. I am the co-founder and CEO at Cosmic. We are a digital marketing and fundraising firm working exclusively with nonprofit organizations to help them raise money and awareness online. Admittedly, I am really looking forward to seeing you in Boston next summer in 2021. Our crew has been going to the Classy Collaborative for close to 8 years now. And I'm going to do my best to bring the energy and the passion that we always bring to the Classy Collaborative, and hopefully the value that you expect from one of our sessions. But I am going to do my best to connect with you virtually. So I hope you are well. I hope you are safe. Let's really dive into the content here and talk about what we're going to cover. Our session today is really going to focus on how to optimize your donor journey with conversion and donation, ultimately gift giving in mind. Our team during year end actually analyzed and reviewed 152 nonprofit organizations. We signed up for all of their email communications. We made donations to each and every organization, and we really analyzed each and every one of those steps so that we could report back to you what our findings are, hopefully giving you some best practices and things to avoid. Ultimately, this session is really about digital optimization of your email communications as well as your donation page. And hopefully it'll help you drive revenue during year end. You know, what was kind of the inspiration for this? Well, we were really kind of reflecting upon how the traditional marketing funnel is, it's flawed in that it has, even in its shape, this notion that supporters are going to come into your system and magically through gravity slide down. And it kind of makes it seem like you're not going to have to put in that much effort. And that simply isn't true. At the end of the day, in order for you to really connect with your supporters, you have to ultimately reach each and every one of your constituents on the right channel, with the right message at the right time. And if you do that, if you connect with them, if you evoke an emotional response on the right channel with the right message at the right time, ultimately, we think that you're really going to drive ROI. Most of this presentation actually focuses on email communication and the donation page optimization, but we are firm believers in an omni-channel or multi-channel strategy here at Cosmic, and we think it's really important that your organization is thinking about the collective. How is your brand, how is your ethos, your story being communicated across all of your channels: text messaging, direct mail, paid digital, TV, radio, print, if you're in those sorts of mediums as well. But because most nonprofits actually use email, we're going to focus on that. At the end of the day, along the way within any kind of interaction with your organization, your donors are making tons of little decisions. They have to decide at each and every one of those points, do I want to move forward? Is this something that I actually want to engage in? So just thinking about email, when they get an email, you have to ask yourself, do I want to open this email? When you open it, you have to say, do I want to read this email? Do I want to click on this email? Do I like what is displayed here? Should I give? How much should I give? There's just tons of little tiny decisions. And what's really cool and exciting is along each and every one of those decision points, you have an opportunity to customize, to optimize what that experience is like, to basically use performance-based marketing to optimize every one of those steps. So we're going to talk about kind of what everyone's doing right now, how emails look, who they're sent from, just all different components of that so that hopefully you can optimize your donor communications. Let's start with some of the benchmarks. Why is email important? First off, a third of all online revenue is attributed to email. That was based off of a benchmark study for 2019. A third of all online revenue is attributed to email. And while at Cosmic, we really are leaning into and leading how to do text engagement and are firm believers in paid digital, the truth is that email still drives a huge amount of revenue, and it's really important that your organization optimize it. Secondly, within the nonprofit space, we're seeing about a 25% email open rate. That does mean that 75% of your supporters that receive your email are not opening that. Maybe your numbers are better or worse, but we're going to kind of talk about some of the tactics to try and increase what that open rate is through optimization. And 13% of those emails that are opened are done so within that first 5 minutes of being received. Again, we're huge proponents of text engagement, where we see 98% of text messages are read within 2 minutes of being received. But again, so many people are using email. You're probably using email, and it's really important that we optimize that experience for your donors. So what is this going to really entail, and how do we go about this? Well, as I mentioned, there were 152 nonprofit organizations that were a part of our study. And we did a comprehensive study. We're only going to cover a few components here today, but you can download the complete study for free. And there's actually 2 studies, one on email and one on donation page experience, and how you can kind of optimize both of those things. And with these 152 nonprofit organizations, there was a huge breadth. We looked across different cause sectors and different revenues. So from small organizations with less than $500,000 in revenue, all the way up to organizations 50, 100 million plus in revenue annually. And we also looked at organizations from all different kinds of causes, so that there could be a breadth and representation across all sectors. And that allowed us to really kind of analyze and review how different size organizations or different cause sectors were doing things. So ultimately, we sought to learn the following. Do most nonprofit organizations still send email newsletters? We were curious about this. So we actually subscribed far before year end, because we wanted to understand what that cultivation and stewardship plan looked like leading up to that solicitation during year end. How easy is it to join nonprofit emails? So is this something that we have to poke around for, or is it really easy to sign up? We're going to dive into that. How long are emails? Are they engaging? Do they provide value? We're going to talk about that as well. How are the emails formatted? Are they designed? Are they plain text? If they are, what's our experience like? What's that? How does it, is it valuable? Does it create conversion? And from whom do these emails come from? Are they coming from the organization, or are they coming from an individual? Let's kind of look at each of these questions. Again, the full report is available for free for download. And I highly encourage you to check it out, because it's many pages of kind of content, and it dives deeper into like the different causes. But as a whole, how easy was it to join an email list? Honestly, not that easy. Not only did it take a number of clicks, and we had to poke around a lot of different websites to actually subscribe to email communications, 30%, almost 30% of organizations that we tried to subscribe to their email newsletter, we were unable to do so. Maybe it was because it timed out or failed. We got an error message, or they simply didn't have one, or it was impossible to find after spending 5 to 10 minutes looking for it. The other really interesting thing was we found that for most organizations, they really didn't communicate effectively and well what value they were going to bring for me having given them my email address. So we've got these 2 examples that we think one is doing a really good job and one is doing kind of a poor job. The first one is from the ACLU, and we think that there's some issues here. They really don't give clarity around why it is that I'm giving my email. Am I going to get, opportunities to activate, to become an activist, to sign petitions, to, march on Washington. None of that is communicated. It's just really vague. Defending our rights to equality, liberty, and justice. Get our updates. It just doesn't have a lot of context for the user. But on the other side, Period Inc. did a really good job. Become a part of a menstrual movement, sign up for Period's monthly newsletter, get the latest news on events, who we are helping, how you can make a difference in that. That is a lot more context for the user, and I have a better idea of what exactly I'm subscribing to. This one from Free Geek we really liked because it actually gave people the opportunity to begin to kind of go down the content journey. So when you're thinking about your target audience, volunteers, fundraisers, donors, and advocates, all four of those major profile types, volunteers, fundraisers, donors, and advocates, you have to understand that what motivates them to engage with your content may vary, right? It might be that that they see themselves in the organization, they see their community in the organization. It may be that they are emotionally moved. They just feel like they have to do something. But then there are like these content pillars that really resonate. So, earlier we used Gary Sinise Foundation, and we do some market research work for them, and we help them with some of their marketing and fundraising. And what we identified was that there were these kind of two motivators for people as to why they were engaging with the content. They have some incredible programs. They send kids to Disneyland. They do cash distribution to veterans and service families. And, there's all these different ways that you might want to engage with the organization. And what this organization, Free Geek, did was they actually allowed you to begin to pick which of those programmatic content pillars or engagement types, maybe it's event, maybe it's volunteer opportunities, you could actually select those in the sign-up process. So not only are you communicating that value, letting people know exactly what they're going to get and what they can expect, you're actually giving them the chance to do that in the sign-up process. We really like this. Now, after we signed up, we were really curious about what does the email deliverability look like? We get this question all the time at Cosmic from our clients and people who are looking to work with us. They're asking, how is it that we can crack particularly the Gmail or Outlook algorithms and make sure that our emails are received by our supporters? First, let's talk about, before we dive into best practice, what we actually experienced. We turned on the intelligent inbox, which so many people are doing. This is primary, promotional, spam, and update folders. Those are the four that we activated because we felt like those, upon researching it, were the most used. There's more options, but we just wanted to go with those basic options. Close to 72, 73% of all emails that we received ended up in the promotional folder. Just under 1% actually ended up in our primary inbox. This is really alarming. Just under 1% ended up in our primary inbox. I don't know about you, but I rarely check my updates and promotional folder in my primary Gmail, and I really rely upon those filters to help make sure that my inbox is not cluttered. Let's talk about some best practices on how you can increase email deliverability. First of all, we're going to dive into design and who it comes from later. But the other key component here that we really want to talk about is around maintaining your list. Sure, you want to have 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 email subscribers, right? The more email subscribers you have, then the more likely it is that you're going to get people engaged, you're going to get people to give money. But the problem with that being the main KPI, instead of how engaged those supporters are, is that it affects your email deliverability, and it doesn't really hold you accountable to the type of content that is going to move people to get engaged. So here's what we recommend. If your email service provider or your CRM allows you to have tags we recommend a recently engaged, engaged, and disengaged tag. And through marketing automation, we set up these things, and you can too, where if you've opened an email, read an email, clicked on an email, visited a web page, basically if you have engaged within the last 7 days, put that recently engaged tag on. Remove that tag if it's been greater than 7 days and put on engaged. And then if it's been more than 6 weeks since somebody has engaged in your content, put disengaged. Then you actually send people who are recently engaged emails first, and then you send everyone who's engaged. And what this does is, as you move down into your disengaged group, then the emails begin to get delivered in the primary inbox more so than if you just send everybody an email communication all at once. It also allows you to really send out communications and begin to understand, what does that open and click and conversion rate and average gift amount look like across these different types of groups, so that your data is not skewed by a really disengaged group. That's super important. All right, let's dive into how emails were formatted. This is a big driver, not just for conversion, but for deliverability as well. The overwhelming majority, close to 96% of all emails that we received, were highly designed. Just a few were what we would consider plain text. I'm not talking about the plain text where it's really crappy looking. It doesn't look like it looks basically like it's just been spit out by the computer. I'm actually talking about an email that is well formatted, that makes it look like it's coming from an individual person. Those are the kinds of plain text emails that we would like to see more of, because oftentimes, particularly when you're soliciting a gift, these outperform the highly designed emails. We particularly like it when people switch them up and they use a combination of plain text and highly designed emails. Who are these emails coming from? Overwhelming majority of these emails are coming from the organization itself. Of the thousands of emails that we received, the majority of them came from organizations as a whole. They were impersonal. They weren't really addressed to us. They just felt like I was a part of a cog in a greater machine. I was just one of the email subscribers, and I wasn't being treated uniquely special. For a few organizations, they actually put the organization plus the individual person. And in some cases, very few cases, we actually saw it come from an individual person. We highly recommend this tactic. Furthermore, we recommend that you have 2 different emails, basically an alias email that really mirrors what an individual person might look like. For example, my primary email is matt@cosmic.com. My alias email might be ms@cosmic.com or scott@cosmic.com. That's my last name. So that way, when people are receiving these emails, they're getting emails, they look like they're from a real person, and they don't look like they're just from an organization's auto reply. All right, so the other, let's just dive into the anatomy of an effective email. I think that's what we should do next. We want to look at, what is an example of when someone really hit it out of the park and did exactly what we're talking about here. Columbia Riverkeeper sent an email that we thought was really nice balance between overly designed and sort of plain text. It was addressed to us individually. We signed up for these as Cosmic. So they addressed us by our first name in terms of what we gave them. Again, not overly designed, really kind of nicely laid out. It demonstrated the impact of our gift. It had a very clear donate CTA. It was just nicely formatted, and it looked like it came from a person. And there is an actual email that I can reach out to get in touch with the sender. This is just really well done. It's a little shorter than we would have liked, but it came at the time when they were really sending out a high frequency of emails, and it was during year end. So it's possible that they were sending this because without a bunch of context or additional text, because they were thinking that it was a crowded time to send email. All right, again, there's lots of stuff. There's lots of stuff that we didn't cover. Highly encourage you to download our report. That's available totally for free. And but the other thing that we really want to talk about are what are those key takeaways that we just walked through, right? First, you got to make it easy for supporters to subscribe. It was really difficult for people to subscribe. You want it to be present on your homepage, have it in your footer, use user-driven design, use a kind of landing page with a single call to action where people can sign up and they know exactly what they're signing up for. If possible, add those tags for different content pillars or programmatic pillars. So those are key things. Monitor your email deliverability. This is an increasingly necessary thing for your organization to do, particularly with the use of AI inside these inboxes and the filtering that's happening on the Gmail and Outlook side. You can do that by really focusing your groups, having your most recently active, engaged, and disengaged tags, and segment those communications accordingly. Personalization wins every time. Personalize, personalize, personalize. Whether that means you have different content pillars that you're sending emails to, but really send them from a person. Even if it's not that person's primary inbox, you need to create a secondary inbox that really makes it personal. Also, have a single call to action in an email. Don't overcomplicate things. I can't tell you how many, well, we can tell you, you can look at it inside the report. But for so many emails, there were actually many call to action, and it really cluttered up the email. Instead of being really kind of thoughtful and look at who attends events, who signs petitions, who makes contributions, who volunteers their time. If you can kind of segment these into these different groups, then you can send the appropriate CTA to your constituents. This will really help increase your conversion rate. All right, we just talked a ton about the email engagement experience. Now we want to break down what it was like for the donation experience. So as I mentioned, we signed up for 152 nonprofits inside this study. We looked to sign up for all of their email communications. Of those, we're just about 70% we were able to do. And then in the final day of the year, we made a contribution to each and every one of the organizations that we were able to. That's crazy, I know, but for some nonprofits, we actually were not able to make a contribution. Their links broke, their systems didn't work, it wasn't possible to make a contribution online, they were missing an address, there were just a lot of different factors. All of those factors are broken down in the donation page assessment. Highly encourage you to check that out, and you can read through all of our findings. But what did we seek to learn? What were we trying to understand here? We wanted to know, was it easy to make a donation? Was it easy to find the donation button? Or was it hidden somewhere? Was there a clear value proposition? We're going to talk about the key components of a strong value proposition. This applies in business. It applies in the nonprofit space. You got to stand out to your constituents. What in the heck does that mean? How do you do that? And finally, was there an option to give monthly? And if so, was it prominently featured on that donation page? Let's start with how many fields did we have to complete to make a donation. The trend is basically that nonprofits ask for everything during the donation checkout experience. It's our belief that based on the A/B testing that we've done with lots of different organizations, that the fewer fields that you require when making a contribution, the higher your conversion rate. Let's look at what that looked like. Well, for most organizations, they required over 11 fields just to make a donation. Just fewer than 5 fields was a very small portion. What is actually required in order to make a contribution is the credit card number, the zip code, the amount, the name, and that's it. You don't even need your code on the back of your credit card. However, that is recommended. But the point is that you can really streamline your donation process and instead capture additional information that you might be seeking on the back end of the donation. Maybe it's through a survey. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So here's an example from the Portland African American Leadership Forum, where they were asking all of these questions during the checkout process. They wanted to know our pronouns, our gender, our sexual orientation, our race. Just way too much to ask when you're actually trying to make a contribution. We did in fact fill all this out because we wanted to know what the experience was like. But that being said, this is not an optimized experience. Get a donation and then send a survey as a follow-up. Other examples of things that we saw: donations in honor of, donations in memory of. Do you have matching funds available? If yes, who will be matching? These are just, again, too many questions to ask during that donation process. It's much better to have a streamlined donation process, immediately take them to a secondary page where they can fill out a form to get additional information. If they don't complete that form, you can send a text message, you can send an email follow-up. Let them know why it is that you're asking for this information and what value it's going to bring to you as an organization, but most importantly to them as an individual supporter. So, did we have to include non-essential information to make that gift to the organization? In the case, 90% of the organizations that we gave to required non-essential information. To be clear, we did not, strip it down to that very bare minimum when we describe what is non-essential information. What we were talking about are some of those required fields: first name, last name, email, credit card information, and amount. That's what we were talking about for non-essential information was, all the other stuff in memory of, in honor of, address, all these different kind of survey questions. So let's talk about Class E specifically. What are some examples of non-essential information that you might have activated on your Class E page? We just don't think that this is a highly optimized experience. Phone number, leaving a comment, what's your company, your birthday. Unless that is absolutely critical to your campaign, we recommend removing that and, again, putting them on a landing page and following up with that after the fact. If you're using Salesforce, if you're using Classy and you've got, you can implement Twilio for Salesforce, and we create these Twilio flows that nonprofits use to actually begin to send text messages and email that gather this information over time instead of asking for it all up front. So that really is talking a lot about fields. Now let's kind of move into the storytelling. Let's talk about the role that your donor plays in your page. You ultimately want to position the donor as the hero. Too many nonprofit organizations are spending all their time talking about themselves instead of talking about the individual organizations. We think it's really important that you put your donor as the hero because ultimately what you're trying to evoke is some kind of an emotional response to your content. Nonprofits are selling a physiological reaction, an emotional response, that feeling that you get when you're moved, right? We've all been to those in-person events, those galas. They show those videos. They have somebody who's benefited from the programming stand up and make that kind of appeal right before you make that contribution. And then the auctioneer asks, all right, who is ready to make a difference? Who is ready to, help this person in need? And it's all about that individual supporter, connecting them to that emotional response. That's what you really want to do. You want to have the donor positioned as the hero. Let's look at Chick Tech. We thought Chick Tech did a really nice job of really talking about exactly how you as an individual contributor will influence the mission of the organization, will have a positive impact on the organization. They also did a really nice job of describing what was going to happen after a contribution was made, how it was going to help retain women in technology in the workforce, increase the number of girls pursuing tech-based careers. We just thought that this was a really nice, strong way to pitch to the donor that they're the ones driving the ROI. They're driving the programmatic impact. So how many organizations actually mention the donor? Only about 44% actually mentioned the donor in their appeal. The rest of them, the majority of them, actually talked about the organization and not about the role that the individual played. So really want to mention that the donor, position the donor as that hero. Here's another great example from Why Giving to Cats Matter. It really talks about, shared love of helping cats. Your generosity saves the lives of at-risk cats and kittens in Portland metro area and beyond. They're really focused on this geographical location. So we really like that this one positions them as a hero. Again, you kind of know what's going to happen after your contribution is made. You know exactly where that work is going. But most importantly, as a donor, why it is that you should give and how you're an important part of this equation. So let's talk about some of the key components of what makes a really strong pitch, right? And you can Google this. Strong value proposition is just a common practice in business, but in nonprofits, it's really important that you understand the key components of what make a strong value proposition. This should be front and center on your page. It's appeal, exclusivity, credibility, and clarity. So appeal is, how attracted to this? How does this make me feel? Exclusive, is this organization I'm about to contribute to doing this in a different and unique kind of way? One of our clients, Team Rubicon, they repurpose the skills and experience of military veterans to respond to natural disasters and humanitarian crisis all around the world. There's lots of disaster relief organizations, but that is a really cool exclusive niche. They're the ones repurposing the skills and experience of military veterans to do it. So they have that kind of exclusive edge. Credibility, right? Does it evoke kind of a sense of, I think I can trust this organization. They're doing really good work. I'm attracted to that work. They've got a unique kind of approach to it, and they're totally credible. I can see that there is like a reason why I should give to them over someone else. And clarity. Is it clear, concise, and to the point? Do I know exactly what they do when I read through their donation page? The other thing that's important to recognize here is that a strong donation page actually has some additional context. You gotta place the donor as the hero, have a strong value proposition that is appeal, exclusive, credible, and clear. But then you need kind of 4 to 7 sentences of additional context for your donor so that they can really understand, what it is that's going to happen after their contribution's made, what their role in that is, what the need is. And the idea there is to kind of evoke that emotional reaction to that value proposition. So here's a couple examples. We really liked this first example. We thought that they did a really good job, that they had a really strong value proposition, that they really reinforced it with some additional context. Versus, your gift changes lives. Thank you. Your investment enables great things. These lack the context. They don't have a lot of connection to what it is. The first one, contribute to a fair and more equal Oregon with the different options. So basic rights of Oregon, donate below. It breaks into exactly what it is that they're going to be doing. Admittedly, this is a little small and difficult to see, but really strong value proposition when compared to. So, this is completely subjective, but when we looked through it, we were kind of evaluating how strong was that value proposition. Did we think that they did a really good job at kind of presenting that? And we found that the majority of organizations had a really weak value proposition, that the value proposition really wasn't clear, wasn't concise, wasn't credible, wasn't exclusive, that it wasn't backed up by a lot of other things. We saw that, around 40% had a kind of what we would call a medium value proposition. They had some of those components, but not all of them. And very few of them, just around 15%, actually had really strong value propositions that were exactly what I was describing. So we go into detail in the report. You can see specific examples and call-outs, but it's worth kind of noting there. All right, so again, focusing on the supporter. Let's talk about your organization and kind of more talk about the supporters and how they make your work possible. So here's another example that we really liked. You're making a difference. Give families the resources and training they need to lift themselves out of the darkness of poverty. That is a strong sentence. Your donations provide immediate impact, providing opportunities to increase health, safety, education, and savings. They're telling us exactly what's going to happen after the gift. Your gift will be used in the area of greatest need. As nonprofit fundraisers, we know exactly what that means. Thank you for making their future brighter. So this was a part of a page with a little bit more context, but this is a really strong way of making the donor the focus to communicate what that value is. Here's an example of a really strong value proposition that demonstrates security and mentions the donor and the impact and inspires action. Your gift changes lives. KCSARC, a nonprofit, provides sexual assault-related services for people of all ages in King County, Washington, while working toward the ultimate goal of eliminating sexual violence and abuse from our communities. We're on the front lines with survivors and their families, ensuring that all people affected by sexual assault get the treatment they need and advocacy they deserve. Your gift helps individuals heal and communities better respond to survivors. Thank you. That's really strong. It's very clear. It's concise. It shows exactly what they're doing. It places the donor as the hero. It's just a really strong, a very strong kind of value proposition and placing the donor as the hero. The other key component is, did that page communicate proof of impact? 80% of pages did not properly communicate the impact of a gift. What do we mean by that? Let's look at some examples. So many of you are using Classy. Maybe you've got another tool, but for a lot of you, are you really communicating exactly what's going to happen? So here's a great example. Truck fuel for a week for $200. Sponsor a family for $500. These giving levels are really important because they kind of show a direct impact towards the gift. Here's another example, and what we really liked about this was actually the irregularity of the giving levels. They really kind of showcase the authenticity of them. USA for UNHCR is really good at this. They will call out very specific numbers on their donation page that feel like they might be a little random. They're not. They're actual programmatic cost that connect back to that strong value proposition. This one, really great job. Your gift will change lives. It's got $46. It's got all these different kind of irregularities. Really worth examining how you might be able to do something similar. Could we opt into receiving nonprofit communications during that donation experience? This is an important thing to include, but for so many, we were not able to opt into communications. This isn't particularly important for some of our international clients or organizations that are operating in California. It's important to ask people if they want to participate in your organization's, regular communications and what those kind of things are. So the other thing is making it feel really actionable. When somebody subscribes to your emails, you want it to feel actionable, right? So which of these options feels most actionable to you? I'd like to receive emails from United Way Worldwide. It's okay to contact me in the future. Yes, send me updates on the work I am making possible. Yes, send me food court updates. Of these, we really liked yes, send me updates on the work I am making possible. You guessed it, the donor's the hero. It's pretty clear exactly what kind of updates I'm going to get. And we thought out of these, this was the best kind of one to go with. So, what are some of the key takeaways from our donation page study? First, focus on the essentials. during that donation checkout experience, it's really important to strip down, only asking questions that are absolutely critical to get that financial contribution. Reduce the number of fields and avoid asking for non-essential information. Keep it simple. Remove all the distractions from the donation page. This is really important for so many organizations. They have you've made the decision to contribute, you've made it to that landing page, and you're trying to take me away to look at all kinds of other stuff. We actually prefer a really stripped down donation page. They're removing the header from the donation page and really kind of forcing somebody to only move through that donation process. Convey a clear, compelling value proposition. Tell your story, showcase the donor as the hero, but do it in a way that really explains to them what makes your organization's approach to this problem unique. Be it clear, make sure that it's credible, and that you're really you're the organization that they should give to if they want to help solve this problem. So again, really encourage you to check out the full-length reports. These reports were really focused on what the donation or the email engagement experience was leading up to a solicitation. And then we have, of course, a comprehensive look at the donation page experience and how you can optimize that experience for your donors. And then we have another report coming out that actually looks at all of the email communications and direct mail solicitations and phone calls that we've made. How were people engaging us as supporters? But this thing goes beyond email and donation pages, right? You heard me talk about it before. At Cosmic, we really believe in optimizing your multi-channel approach to marketing. And email is important, no doubt. But one of the reasons why people engage less with email is because they're getting so much of it, right? And we actually think that one of the ways that you can really stand out is to take an omni-channel approach that you can use direct mail, handwritten cards, text messaging. Again, that is definitely our favorite way to engage supporters. You can send meaningful SMS and MMS multi-way text and visual elements that are timely, that demonstrate impact, that really prime a person for solicitation. It's also a great way to schedule in-person or by phone appointments with your major gift prospects, or to deploy a survey to identify how people feel about your response. Text messaging is by far one of the most impactful ways that you can introduce a multi-channel approach to your fundraising and engagement strategy. Programmatic ads are really key. Programmatic ads are basically, the idea is that you're building an audience and you're moving with that audience across the web, that you're going to see them on Google Display, you're going to see them on Facebook, Instagram, you're going to move with that person across all of the different websites that they interact with. We highly recommend programmatic ads as a part of your engagement strategy. And then, of course, retargeting, right? Somebody lands on your page and they don't make that gift, hit them up with a retargeting ad. Or if they make a one-time contribution, hit them up with a monthly gift retargeting ad. You can build these kind of e-commerce best practices for the checkout experience into your engagement strategy and make it multi-channeled. All right, again, head over to cosmic.com/classy 2020 and download these reports for free, digest them, and really, we are here to serve you. We're here to help answer your questions. Normally, we would have a Q&A. We would be able to engage at the collaborative. We'd be sitting across from each other. Obviously, we can't do that, but that doesn't mean our team is not here for you. We are absolutely here for you. Reach out to us, crew@cosmic.com. You can also chat with us on cosmic.com. We're real people. We are here to support you. Or you can just pick up the phone and call us. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. I really hope that you found this experience valuable. And I look forward to seeing you in Boston next summer for Classy Collaborative 2021. Thank you.